You're live.
All right, good morning.
Wait your turn. This is Tuesday, the 17th of March. This is Senate Transportation. And we have the maintenance budget, and we have the Director of Maintenance, Ernie Patno, here. And if you would introduce yourself, and who did you bring with you?
Good morning, Ernie Patno, Director of Maintenance. I brought Ashley Atkins, Deputy Director of Maintenance. Candace Elquist, our Chief Financial Officer, sitting in with us. It's always nice to have Candace, and appreciate you having us in. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you. So we're here to brag a little bit about what we do, and then shamelessly, of course, and tell you a little bit about what we do, and then present the budget. So the first thing we wanted to chat about, I'm sure you saw the news that neighbors helping neighbors. We headed down to Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and we moved some snow. We started off on deploying 32 employees, 12 dump trucks, 12 trailers, 12 bucket loaders, 7 pickups with plows, 2 mechanics, and some pickup trucks with plows as well, down to Massachusetts. The next, just a little over a day later, Rhode Island reached out. We sent 12 more employees, 4 dump trucks, 4 pickups, a mechanic vehicle, 4 loaders, 4 25-ton trailers, and 1 local news station down in Rhode Island said we moved 15 million pounds of snow in 5 days. I'm not sure how they calculated, but that's what they reported. And our teams did an amazing job and received praise. V-Trans, for the first time ever, had a 1 million hit post on social media. Went over 1 million, both of them.
Wow, my cousin saw the trucks, so
It was pretty impressive.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I have a constituent whose son worked for AFP and went with part of the crew, and they said they were really psyched about it. Like, they felt really proud, and like that Vermont was helping out, and that they got a great reception. Yeah,
They did. And that is the one thing, and it's not a shameless plug, the men and women of V-Trans, when people start to queue up and our neighbors need help, when I'm asked, can we identify volunteers, say 20?
right.
Like, we don't need to,
Right.
we could have 100 tomorrow. That's just what they do, because they put service above self every day. Like I've said before, Christmas, birthdays, doesn't matter. These folks are there to help everybody, and Vermonters, but in this case, they headed south and they loved it and they worked hard. Little side note, down there, I think there's some stronger work, unions and stuff, and our people are getting work like 8 to 10 hours, and our people actually call back home and say, is there anything you can do? We want 16-hour days while we're here. We don't want to stay in a hotel room.
Right. Yeah.
We want to work 16 and be in a hotel room for 8. So there's some photos. And then we have a short little video that was pretty darn awesome. It was an impromptu video, but this was the first fleet and they were headed out. There they go. Well, no, Mass was gonna pick us up. They were tied up with everything, right? I'm not sure how much I could describe it all day long, but a really short video was just. Oh yeah.
And what day did you leave?
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, and that puts it into perspective. Those are mechanic vans there, and then the pickups with the plows and the bucket loaders on the big trucks, and
They got it done. That was really officer come and grab one of our bucket loaders and took it to and the snow was like 2.5 feet deep. They couldn't get in there, and the bucket loader they were right with the bucket loader and headed but then they got back up. So, pretty wild, pretty amazing. It was,
Thank you very much.
Rhode Island got pounded.
Rhode Island got pounded as well.
How many days were you in each place?
So I have to go back if you want to be honest with you, or maybe actually knows.
That's good.
Tuesday to Tuesday for Mass.
Right, and I wanna say it was Thursday to Tuesday for Rhode Island.
Yes. So a considerable amount of
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
And the sense of pride that Vermont should have for our folks calling home and saying, look, we need to work, we're here to work. We don't want to stay in all that, we're here to move snow. So that was pretty darn awesome.
That's wonderful.
So thank you for letting us share that nice little moment. So we're the district maintenance division. There's 9 districts. I think you folks know a lot of this. We're what you see every day beside the road with the orange trucks.
We have a district map.
We do, it's over,
Is it that, that's a new?
I think this,
I
we do have the one from last year, but I don't know if that's.
I think we've sent over a
I think,
new one, and I
yeah.
think it looks like it might be right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
And this has other things. Other than
I would love to have those.
Yeah, I mean,
Gotta find a way.
yeah.
Only our chair.
I mean, we can move this.
Um,
This is, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can
Video.
put it up there, you know, we'll
That's
get a
where it used to
ladder.
be. It used to be
This
there.
has a lot of things.
There it is.
Yeah, because it has railroads. Important things.
Right.
This is the
Yeah.
best district.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that
we'll
number 6?
have those conversations, yeah.
And we have some, besides the orange trucks that we always talk about, we have some technical services, pollution prevention, compliance. We have a GIS, some GIS folks, emergency recovery programs. We support the towns with our technical, project manager and technicians. So yeah, we do a lot. We touch every Vermonter in one way or another, whether it's an infant to an elderly and everybody in between. That road system has to be maintained and they need to use it. So we're there for them. The next slide is just the lane mileage in each district that kind of goes with that map. And there is a smaller map on that slide that shows our districts. Just a really quick overview. Most of you folks are veterans about what we do. Like I said, whatever you see those orange trucks doing beside the road, we could be cutting trees, patching potholes, fixing guardrail, picking up litter, fixing signs. The list just goes on and on and on and on and on. We respond to emergencies. We respond to floods. We can move mountains and rivers if we need to, and we have. So, you know, whether it be culverts or it just, the list goes on and on, but we listed 20 or so here. FY25 accomplishments. We rocked 1,061 bridges. Bridges are,
Did you watch 0.375 of a bridge?
well, and so it's a computer program. And how it came up with that law of average, I did notice that, and it's the same as the litter, right? It goes right down to a point.
Correct.
Um,
A ton of litter came in decimal, but I don't know
Yeah.
the portion of a bridge. Maybe only watched a third of it.
So that bridges are our largest asset on our roadway network, and we try to wash our bridges 50% every year. And these last few years, we've made a huge effort to do that. And we don't just wash the top, right? We wash the bottom, right? The frame catches some of the top, but it's the underneath, the bearings and the piers and the caps.
Extend the life.
Absolutely, right, they're our most expensive thing and they need to last a long time. We also sweep those same bridges. I always hit on this every year. We pick 440 tons of litter, and unfortunately that number goes up every year, not down. And it's just very, very, very sad.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's I wish people could just understand. I was a little kid in the 70s, and I just remember what would have happened to me if I would have thrown
Yeah.
trash out my parents' car's window. I'll skip part of it, but I do know I'd probably pick up 10 miles worth of everybody else's trash back then as well. It's a Herculean effort. It takes every single maintenance employee that we have 6 weeks to walk every inch of road and pick up the litter.
Go ahead.
So on this point, I have kind of 2 thoughts. The first is that it does disappoint me that you have to do this amount of litter cleanup. That's just frustrating from a societal perspective. And I'm wondering if you have any perspectives on the bottle bill and how, what I've heard from states that don't have a bottle bill, which is the redemption, that they see more litter than we see. So I wanted to understand a little bit if you had a perspective on the bottle bill, seeing that that's a bill we've hunted on for years now, but would expand. It has been shown to very effectively reduce people chucking stuff out their window. And then my second question on that would be, do you redeem bottles? Like if you guys get bottles, what do you do with them? How do you recycle them?
So a lot of times, they do separate them out, and they do recycle them.
Did
Because
they redeem them or recycle them?
they just recycle them.
Okay, so hey, we're getting these sheets for the Clean Water Fund, so.
And so as far as the bottle bill, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to really judge on that. But what I can tell you from experience, and I kind of forget to mention, this spring will be 29 years I've worked for this agency, all in the same department. All started, out on the road, whether it be mechanicking or picking litter. And the problem that I see with bottles is, you find most of them around signs still, because what a great target. So, but yes, and so that's around 200 full-size dump truck loads of garbage, because we have to pick it up when it's dry, because paper doesn't pick up good when it's wet. So this trash tonnage in the truck doesn't add up, but volume does.
Can I also ask, we've discussed an extended producer responsibility bill related to tires,
Mhm.
like discarded tires. How many tires do you think you collect and what?
Yep.
Yeah,
So I would like to get back to this committee. I can actually give you an accurate number of,
Oh.
we actually measure it in tons, not tires, because that's how many we pick up.
that would be really helpful information.
I can do that. Actually, you get that? Thank you very much.
Yeah, and can I just follow up on that? Can you give us the trends? And if it's increasing or decreasing, maybe, but probably increasing, and where you're seeing them? And if they're, because a lot of times it could be that someone who has a whole lot of tires
Mhm.
versus someone who doesn't, who has a little bit of tires, and it's a different response depending on what type of individual or company is dropping them off.
I think what I could offer is the way I'm just thinking about our tracking system. Our tracking system is gonna measure those tons by district, and it's gonna be hard. I'll try, but it would be hard for us to narrow down to town, I believe,
Yeah,
but we can catch it by district.
whatever you can, and if you do ever find the folks who left them there too, because sometimes they'll leave mail or something inadvertently, and you can find out who they are.
It's
And
certainly.
that's a problem. I mean, that
That's a
costs
huge-
us a lot, and it's environmentally.
Yes, we used to measure picking up tires by the tire, and now we measure it by picking up by the ton.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, how many there are?
yes,
Well, thank you.
yes, good question.
back in the day, right, you'd see a tire here and a tire there. Now you see four perfectly matched tires.
Yep.
Well, they used to be, part of that, they used to be free to bring
Yes.
back to them.
Right.
Now they're,
Yeah.
whatever, $4, yeah.
We fabricated, oh, sorry,
It's expensive to get rid of tires.
it is very expensive. Get rid of tires.
Right, so what some places do is you pay when you buy the tire, and then it's free when you.
Yeah. And then they're
Recycle.
required to make sure that it's.
Right,
We fabricated 6,244 signs. We made 600. We do that in-house. We make most of our signs in-house. We mowed 14,164 acres. This is kind of interesting. We spent 41,649 hours responding to emergencies. So that's almost 20 full-time employees for the whole year, if you will, by the hour, that responded to emergencies. That is not snow. This is everything else that we respond to. It could be water, it could be an accident, it could be trees, it could be almost anything. But in FY 25, a little over 40,000 hours, we were responding to some type of an emergency.
so, question about that, so, sometimes an agency is able to charge their time. Do you do that?
We do.
Good,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah, and the state police and the local police are outstanding partners on capturing information. If we have an asset that is damaged,
Mhm.
they do an outstanding job. And just recently, we're starting, that money comes back into the T fund.
Okay,
So that's pretty exciting. And so anytime we know about it, we do ask for reimbursements.
Great.
So like guardrails, a good one.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of this. actually.
There's a lot of guardrail. Yes. We cut 23,000 trees. That's always a large number. A tree in our tracking system is anything bigger than 3 inches, and we ditched 173,000 feet. And I knew that we would discuss salt a little bit, because I did talk about salt a little bit earlier in the year. A fun fact I always like to share. We have plowed so far to date as of this morning, because I always like to run it in the morning, that we're gonna come here. We plowed 1.9 million miles, and that's on a GPS. That is not a fabricated number that I just come in here with. Now, if you put that into perspective, if you lined up trucks 30 football fields wide, that's from the Capitol's address to Los Angeles, 30 football fields wide. So when people say, where is the plow truck? You don't ever plow. Well, 1.9 million this year so far, and I'm pretty sure we're headed to break 2 million. This
How's
year.
that compared to other years?
I would say this one's a little bit higher than last year. I think last year at this time, I think when I talked to you folks, I could look back, but I thought it was around 1.5 million.
Does your dashboard have like a multi-year?
I don't think our
I guess you have it for salt.
yeah, we have it for salt. And we can slide right into salt. So far, as of this morning, we've used around 116,000 tons of salt for the whole winter season. We figured winter on a 25-week cycle. We're in week 20 of this cycle. And last year on this date, we used 112. So last year was the first winter that I considered a real winter in a long, long time, or a snowing winter. Back a little bit, a few months ago, we were like 25,000 ton ahead, and it always kind of sort of averages out. So right now we are extremely close, just a 4,000 ton of what we used last year. Another interesting little fun fact about this year, there was a lot of media about a perceived salt shortage.
Perceived.
Mhm.
Oh,
So, well, it was weird. It was spotty here, spotty there. And a lot of people would come to me and say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's like, we have salt. I didn't really know what, it was difficult. And the reason is we have a very large team, our BGS partners. We have 3 people on our team. We plan way ahead. We're already planning right now for next year's salt. So every winter,
Well, finish it and then I'll.
okay, so every winter, we traditionally, right now, are worried about filling these sheds up, right? So come fall, we're not looking for salt. Come fall, we already have our salt. And that's how it's always been done here at V-Trans. And this year was a perfect example of why it should always be done that way. Our sheds should always be full in the spring. We can hold 125,000 tons if all the sheds are full. So mathematically, you can almost make it. You'd have to internally move. Currently, we've gone all winter and through planning and due process, we have 90,000 tons in stock right now. So all through the winter, there was no shuffle of we're almost out of salt because of good planning, shed storage, covered sheds. We had it. And next year we'll go into the fall with 125,000 ton, maybe a little more. We're going to start looking for some other opportunities for storage. On paper, it looks like, we'll have enough salt for the foreseeable future.
So some communities did express, and the agency made an offer to communities to sell salt to towns if they were short. Can you Yeah, but it was a little confusing about
Sure.
what it, can you tell what we did?
I'd love to. So what we did is we had salt in the pipeline that was coming to V-Trans, if you will, right? We had ordered it way in advance, contracted it in advance. And so what we did is we took 10,000 tons. We took 10,000 tons and told our supplier, we're good. You we diverted it is what we did. Instead of you bringing that 10,000 tons to us, we're gonna make it. So you sell to your towns. I think he told me roughly they helped about 40 towns with that 10,000 ton.
And
so-
was that at our price? And do we get a volume?
So that salt was billed out all on their end, right? We didn't get involved in the money.
Okay,
So however that sugared off, right, it's between, because us selling salt it would
Right.
contractually, it would get messy. And they did indeed deliver all 10,000 of that tons to needy towns that were in dire need. And then the other thing we did, I can use a gazillion examples of a small town that maybe just needs one load to get through the rest of the year. I know we helped at least, I would say 20 more towns by saying, hey, bring your truck over. We'll fill you up, a load. We couldn't spare 20 loads, but we could spare a load or two. And we could get that small town through until springtime, they'll pay us back. So that was a loan, if you will, on paper.
Yeah, this
you've got another question.
Sure.
Yeah, kind of on this because I think there's been a lot of different conversations about this
Mhm.
and it piques my curiosity that the state was so well prepared and able to not experience a shortage. Wow, all of the municipalities in my area seem to have either extremely low or no salt. And only larger towns seem to be able to have properly managed for it. So it seems like there's a scale issue. And what I thought we had heard before, and this is different information than what you provided. We had heard before that none of the towns had taken the state up on their offer for salt. So that, if I'm understanding correctly, was incorrect. It sounds like your distributor provided, due to you declining more salt, the ability to sell that to towns who needed it.
Yes.
So you said about 20 towns, and then 20 more towns got a loan of salt that they will be paying back AOT.
Yes.
Okay, that is different than what I think we heard even 2 weeks ago. I don't remember who it was from, but maybe
Yeah, can interject. I believe there was a period of time when they had first said that we were going to divert salt, but then there was no towns that had contacted that vendor for
okay.
for a very short period of time, and that might be what you're referencing. But then after, say, 4 days, then that vendor was contacted from the towns to then fulfill that need of salt that we diverted. But there was that short period where the vendor hadn't heard of any need.
Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful to update because I was so surprised by that. So it makes a lot more sense that this is how it happened, that no one taking you up on the salt offer. And I think to the chair's question, what I had assumed had happened when I thought no towns had taken you up on the offer was that the price was just out of reach. So what pricing wise with the loans, how would we see that information? Where would we get the information about the salt loans?
Well, you would have to talk to every single town because I bet every town bargains a different price.
No, to you. So you just said.
So
you
the
loan-
20 towns that you gave
Yeah,
the loads to,
We won't get any money. We're just gonna get another load of salt back.
The quantity.
It would be a
oh, okay.
quantity thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're anticipating that they will be purchasing salt this season,
From the-
for next season and compensating you for, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, where is the money gonna be handed off here?
No money. Yeah, that would be very, very messy.
Okay. thank
Very,
you.
very
I
messy.
appreciate that explanation.
Possibly against the law, actually.
Yeah, I was like, I don't-
And then Pat's question.
So I was under the impression a couple years ago that the state had a contract that towns could use. So that the town could get the same price per unit for salt.
This is where it gets very messy, very messy. So the state indeed put salt out to bid. And a lot of people think that there's just this magic salt pile and you call somebody and then they just bring a bunch of salt and then that's it. But it's, we have 6 salt suppliers that are currently supplying V-Trans. And that salt comes from all over the world. It comes from right next door in New York. It comes from Quebec. And then we start talking outside of that, it starts to come across the ocean and into all of our seaports around us. So Portsmouth, Rhode Island, the Port of Albany, the Port of Montreal, and that salt traditionally comes from Chile and Egypt on boats, 60,000 ton at a time. And so the impact when you start to lay out rail, boats, trucks, and how that salt moves around New England is incredible. And so when we put our salt out to bid, we offer the vendor to extend their pricing to towns, but that's all it is. And they can say yes, or they can say no. And if they say yes, all it is a price. But in my experience, and I have no numbers, most towns opt to try to get their own price for their salt.
All right, so there is a structure
There,
if they say yes.
yes,
So then towns just need to know to contact V-Trans?
Yeah, they
To
do.
find out
No,
if there
they
is
do
a
it.
vendor?
through Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns.
Okay,
And then they have to enter into their own contract. So say the price is 86.92.
yeah,
They would need to enter into their own binding legal contract
Okay.
with that salt vendor.
all right, but that's better than not having that.
Yes.
So there is all right, so that's helpful.
And Pat had.
No, actually, that was my question, how many vendors and if we're going out to bid and you
Yeah.
answered it all.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you
Yeah.
start thinking that the salt is coming, right? It's easy just to think that there was a salt pile somewhere and it all just comes from one person. Well, it comes from six vendors that all have their own set of how they get it trucked. And then on top of that rail, and then like I said, a lot of that salt comes from Chile and Egypt on a boat,
That I didn't know.
which is pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah.
Does it come through the Portsmouth Harbor?
Yeah.
I've seen that huge salt
Yeah.
pile there.
Yeah, when you go on 95, you look to the right if you're headed north, and that some of that salt is coming from there.
So do we have to pay tariffs for that?
So it's a bid price, so unfortunately, I don't know the
Oh.
answer to how that would
We
all work.
used to get a lot of salt from New York State, because they mine in under Lake Erie,
Yes, they do.
Wow,
and it's huge.
Yeah, Morton and Cargill.
It is, you're close. It's Cargill and American Rock Salt. Is it Lansing? Or I can't remember the other town's name, but they're pretty close together. And interesting fact, the vein of salt that they all mine starts in Pennsylvania. And it's 16 feet thick in Pennsylvania and dirty. And the further north you go, so by the time you make it into Canada, the salt vein is 60 feet thick and clear, just as white as paper. It is so interesting how that vein is there, and they're all on the same vein of salt, right? It's just how it changes up through. It's
Yes, it was always interesting to me that they mined in under Lake Erie.
yes.
It sprang up a leak and
Mhm.
down. It's like, oh,
So salt has been, it's a very interesting topic, and, like I said, V-Trans, our intent will always be, even well after I'm gone and before it came, is those sheds need to be full in spring. Because we cannot risk all of a sudden in October or November or December, somebody saying, well, there's no salt on the East Coast, because that did happen this year. Apparently, that there was one vendor problem and a lot of people had put their eggs in one basket. And they called in December to get salt, and the answer was that current vendor didn't have salt. So if we were in that same boat, we would have been in trouble, if you will, but we had, 6 vendors all coming from all over the place. Canada, New York, 2 places in New York, and then the ports. So it's pretty neat. And then if the ports freeze over, so like the Port of Albany, I had no idea until I started researching this. It's like 160 miles from the ocean to get into Albany. So once that freezes over in a hard freeze, they can't get barges up through there. Same as the Port of Montreal. When the Hudson freezes, you know, it's going to be, I think they were saying April 15th. Does that sound right? 16th that they thought the next ship could come down the harbor.
A while.
So that's pretty neat,
Yeah, it is.
pretty neat stuff.
So just one more salt question, and this is at the end of the process, but you all have those really nice trucks that calibrate the right amount
Yes,
and don't put too much.
yes.
So can you just talk about that a little bit? And because a lot of towns, most towns can't afford those trucks,
Yep.
but some, maybe 10 or so, 20 have those trucks. Can you just talk about those a little bit?
Yep. So I actually lived those when I first came here. We were switching to computerized trucks. And back then they were pretty crude. But the biggest thing was back in the day, if you will, they had a round knob too. And then they had a lever on, off. So say you wanted, you know, you looked in your mirror and said, I need a lot of salt. So that's salt. You had no idea how much is coming out,
Yeah.
but you just keep turning that dial. And then the other thing was the on and off lever. So you turn it on, the salt came out at the same rate. You pull up to a stop sign and you forget that that lever was on, right? The salt just keeps coming out. And then if you're doing 10 versus 20, or maybe 22 or 25, it's still that same amount. So these new computers, what they do is they're very, very accurate, and we calibrate them every year. So as the truck goes faster, the salt comes out faster. As the truck goes slower, the truck goes out. The salt comes out slower. When you pull up to a stop sign and the thermometer is reading 0, no salt comes out. And in fact, if you have an icy intersection, you have to override with a button, and it will only allow you to do that, I think, for 10 seconds. And it is a science. So if it's 31 degrees and the snow is packing, you need a quarter of the salt if it was -10 and packed. And so, you know, our supervisors are well trained, and they try to get all of their employees to follow their lead with, okay, today on this route, I think we need X. And just the fact of not having a manual on-off switch is just a huge savings in itself. And a lot of times you can see this, say you come to a town road intersection that meets the state road, and we're out doing our thing, and maybe our road doesn't look quite as good, but maybe that other road took 4 times the salt to make it look that good. So we strive to do our best to do both fiscally and environmentally responsible with our salt, because it is one of our hugest drawdowns on our budget, and it affects our environment. So it's a twofold thing. Our snow and ice control policy's been around, the plan has been around since the 80s. And it seems to work. Some people love it, some people don't love it. But I think strikes a really good balance between financially responsible and for the environment.
Thank you. And then how much, what's the cost of that kind of mechanism, or that truck versus the truck that isn't?
I'm gonna do something fun and put Dave Thurber, director of our fleet division, and maybe he knows roughly what a computerized system ends up costing us.
Was thinking, I believe we do not get an itemized list of the costs from our upfit vendor.
Maybe you can just let us know generally.
It's not the truck. it's
The differential of, you know, a regular truck versus what.
We'll get it to you.
Yeah.
Ashley, you got, thank you very much. We'll get you a
Thank you.
pretty accurate
And thank
number.
you for that.
Do you still have that the maintenance
Yes.
dashboard? I didn't find it.
Okay, we'll get it
Under
to
the
you.
link.
Ashley's writing everything down. She's really good at following up with this stuff. The other thing that we do, if you don't mind me just adding one thing, is if our trucks are moving and the system is working, we spray liquid salt on that salt at the spinner. Because just the fact of that salt being wet, it saves bounce and scatters, because we're spreading a whole load of marbles, if you will. Right, they're all little tiny marbles in the back. And say the truck's going down the interstate at 30, that material's moving at 30, hits the road, and just that in itself bounce and scatter by using liquid salt and trying to get that salt wet saves about, the industry standard, they say 30%.
Wow.
So another tool in the toolbox to be more both fiscally and environmentally responsible. We're past,
No, I canceled one of.
Okay.
So,
Which one?
you got to, we're gonna move, Jackie. Yeah, yeah. Because we got started later and.
So we're just hearing from.
all right, so we'll go to that, that's our budgets over the last few years. And then actually, if you can go to the pie. So this one shows, just really quick, like the split on how much our personnel salary and benefits cost, and then how much is left over for maintenance out of, our budget.
So what happened between 25 and 26?
Yeah, so that's why Candace, and I know a lot of it, but Candace is certainly an expert.
Candace Umpus, AFT CFO, that difference between 25 actuals and the 26 budget is really attributed to the July flood costs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the first slide is just a general thing to show this is what our personnel cost, and this is. And then the next slide breaks it down just a little bit further. So we break out, I'll go right from the top, district operating expenses is the blue 24 million. This pays for everything that you see us doing outside the road. This pays for heat, lights, water, sewer, trees, culverts, mowing, emergencies, patching, guardrail. At the end of the presentation, we have about 130 maintenance activity codes that I provide with you folks every year. So that's that portion of it. 15 million goes to the central garage. This is how we pay for our orange fleet, if you will. We pay into and Dave will testify on that next. And so that's what we pay for the whole fleet. That's what we pay. And then the BGS fleet cost, these are for our smaller vehicles that you see, say a light duty SUV or a light duty pickup truck. Those go through BGS. Major maintenance and facilities, this is what it costs, and this is what we incorporate to keep all of our buildings running. Whether it be electrical, furnaces, the heat, doors, windows, that's what we put into that basically every year to keep all of our buildings going. The purple is the headquarters environmental programs. Bridge maintenance projects, these are bigger projects that we work with our partners to do, like say anything. We try to use a rule of thumb, our bridge crews, if it takes a couple days, they do it at the local level. And then if we need a contractor that's going to take more than a couple days, that's the money we use for that. Salt is the gray. And then federal aid projects is a tiny little piece. And this goes a lot with the environmental services section that I was discussing earlier. And then, like I said, at the end, I can dive down into those 130 codes that equals that 24 million. It will equal on the sheet. It shows you FY25 checkbook, if you will. So a lot of times when I come in, it's difficult when they say, when I am asked, how much are you going to spend in FY26 doing X? I say, okay, well, I plan on doing this. But we're on the front of our budget. We get our budgets allocations in July. We need to be pretty responsible in the summer, because this winter is going to be another great example of if we are unresponsible last summer, we could be in trouble this winter. So our funding mechanism shifts due to the seasons. I could testify that if we were going to patch $1 million worth of roadways this spring, but say 2 weeks from now, it freeze thaws, and rains every day for 7 days, our patching budget will be $5 million. And it's really hard. We have a law of averages, but it's hard for me to, basically when I walk out of here, it's like, okay, I hope it doesn't rain for 2 weeks next month. The next slide is some of the stuff that, we started to dive into a little bit earlier in the season. We did have a reduction in force, and we're gonna, this is how that all sugars off. And we're gonna have some personnel savings of about 2.38 million. This summer, we're gonna have some small reduction in supplying our stockpiles. And what that means is maybe instead of every garage having a huge pile of culvert at its beck and call, maybe the district is going to have a pile of culvert at the beck and call. More planning, more partnering up, more transparency about who has what in the backyard. We're gonna be very careful on our salt, and we are going to try to save $400,000 on our salt. Same with the overtime. We're gonna follow our snow and ice control plan. And then we did add some money this year for additional tree cutting. And we're gonna try to focus on a few areas on the interstate. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the difference from last year to this year.
Do you, we don't get any match for that, do we? But we don't get tree cutting in any way on the interstate or anything.
No.
And in relation to the cuts from last fall where we cut back with some tree cutting, where did we cut that and how much? Because in the rescission process, I know we cut back some on cutting.
We did. And so as far as identified areas, I don't have, so we probably have 50 identified areas, and I'd have to go back and do some
Do you
research.
remember how much we did cut? Because I forget.
I can pull up the rescission plan, Chair, but we didn't necessarily bring any of the cuts from the rescission plan forward into the 27 budget.
I'm trying to figure out how much of what that cut this might affect. Is this catching up,
One thing about the tree cutting is it's sort of an unfortunate situation is when the interstate was built, 90%, at least 90% of that interstate was cleared fence to fence. I mean, when you look down through there, you saw the fence on one side and the fence on the other. There is a few places that that's not true. North on 89 up in like Highgate Swanton area, there's some very mature trees, some very mature oak trees that have been there for a long time. And then like when you get south towards Randolph, Williamstown area, there's a lot of large maple that it looks like it didn't get cut because that stuff is more than 50 years old. But for the rest of it, it's all very bird, popple, sumac, white birch, pine, all weak species that are quick growing and have reclaimed that area. So it took us 60 years to get into this mess and probably take us a few to get out, for sure.
Ernie, I have
Sure.
the rescission plan, if you would, Chair. So for the rescission plan, maintenance items were 575,000 reduction in demand-driven equipment servicing. We're purchasing at Central Garage. 415,000 reduction in tree cutting that we're talking about. 300,000 reduction of preventative culvert maintenance projects. 200,000 reduction of contracted mowing services. 150,000 return or repurpose of devices purchased for VAMIS, the Vermont Asset Information System. And then maintenance was also part of the travel and conference participation, suspension savings, and the position management savings from the decision.
So this is a couple 100,000 up in tree cutting.
So we did forward along our activity-based checkbook, if you will, and so these are these codes that I was talking about, and in lieu of transparency, every year we would come in and there was something very similar to this, but this one is actually a little bit different. It looks the same. We used to bring in our MATS report, which is our maintenance activity tracking system. And the one thing about that system, and we still use it, is outstanding for keeping track of what we do. It is outstanding. And that's how I can pull up those figures so quickly about how many miles we plowed. What it's not very good at is a budgetary aspect. It has fringe in it on both the equipment and the employees. So it's hard to give actual numbers. So what you have before you today are actuals. This is what hit a check, quote unquote, checkbook, if you will. These are the monies that were spent on those activities, and it is a lot of lines. But it also is full transparency of where all the money went in FY25. FY26 will look very similar. I went down through and took the liberty to hit the ones that were around $1 million, because some of them are $3,000, and some of them are $1 million, some of them are 11. And so if you would like, I'll go down and hit the bigger ones, or I can just field questions on the spreadsheet itself.
Well, can you explain the difference between the MATs and the non-MAT activities again?
Yep. So MATs is what the folks enter in the garages, if you will. So the people doing the actual work with orange trucks. And then non-MATs activities, this would be the people in the office that are writing a check to pay a bill for, say, a light bill.
That's also subcontracting fall under that.
With that,
Subcontractor fall under that too somewhere.
under non-MATs,
Yeah.
it would not. It would fall in, normally when we use a contractor, say for mowing, it would fall into the mowing.
The MATs.
Yeah.
Or the-
But it would be in here in mowing, but
Yeah.
the money is there. And so it's been a tough balancing act. It's a same look, different feel. And it was in lieu of trying to be more transparent, that a MATS number has fringe on both the equipment and the person, if you will. Whereas this is what we spent. This is what we spent that was billed to that code with no fringe.
So, for example, in the second page, tree cutting at 4510, it's almost 2.5. Would the 600,000 that we have in here be on top of that for next year coming? So we'd be about 3 million in tree cutting.
That's what we're hoping to do.
Just okay. And that was, these are actuals, not, so those are net of the rescissions.
Correct. Again, Candace Lundquist, so the 600,000 item in the 27 budget assumed an average of the past 2 years worth of actuals. So we were assuming that the base would be 2 million and then 600,000 on top of that share. When we start mixing actuals and budget, it gets a little wonky.
Could you spend a few minutes giving us what you think are the highlights in here?
I have a question before you do that, maybe. So just the fuel line and the non-MATs 4,700. I don't know what CG stands for, but is this all the fuel? for the whole maintenance.
So this is our rent for fuel. This is the fuel and the rent for everything orange that you see and yellow construction equipment as well.
The rent.
Yeah.
What are you renting?
We rent, if you, quasi, if you will, rent from Central Garage.
Oh, right, that's such a rush. So this is the rent and the fuel.
Yeah.
19.9.
It's like fee for space.
Right.
It is exactly the same. Yeah.
And then I saw a trash line, collecting trash, only $5.99, but that's, is there another line over on the mats? There's a mats number for that?
Which one were you were on?
$5.90.
45.90.
There's a picking litter. 45.60. And Matt,
Maybe that's.
that's a lot.
45, oh, yeah, so that's the $1.5 million is the personnel cost, but maybe also to get rid of the litter.
Yes, that would be everything that hit a check. So whether we had to pay for the litter for a person.
The equipment.
Yep.
So this collecting trash is some other rate,
What code is the collecting trash? I didn't.
$45.90, $6. I was saying,
So
Right.
I don't need to know, 'cause it's only $6, but when we were talking about how much trash it is, I didn't see the picking.
Yeah.
Litter one, so.
yeah. So that's kind of the difference is non-mats is somebody paid a trash bill for $6 at an office somewhere.
Yeah, that's-
It's the code associated with payment of the invoice. Some of them are related to our mass activity code, some of them are related to how our administrative team.
They couldn't have much trash. I never get out of
$6.
Yeah.
station, but with $5.99, it's always $40 or 75.
So what you see the orange fleet doing, if you will, most of the time, these big numbers are gonna be in the mats activities. And then the non-mats, you picked up on a couple of them, CG. And then right underneath it is utility charges. Pay about $1.3 million. I cannot even tell you how many electric bills we get. It's in the hundreds. Because every time you see a lighted crosswalk, a stoplight, a street light that's on our system, we got a bill. We get a bill for that.
Is there a contract or for that, or do we get a discount? I mean,
So-
those are utilities.
I'd be quite frank with you. I don't believe that we do, but I could look into that.
No,
I
that's
mean,
okay.
I'm sure the average, it would be the same as anybody hooking up power for
Yeah.
a light.
So what in here is anything big changes or up or down in here? And what are the things we should be most concerned about?
Well, to be, quickly looking down through it in that question, that is the thing about maintenance, is we have to shift. I was joking before you folks came in the room. We have to shift immediately and quickly. So I started to talk about patching, right? I want to spend $1 million, but I could spend 5. I want to spend as little as I can on salt, but I could spend 12. So the things to me are our core missions, and we have.
Is the patching up? This is where in the old days, we call it Shimco in that. And if we are falling behind in, our general paving budget and in that area, it becomes, important that we're able to react.
Yep.
And where is that in here? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, so traditionally, maintenance does not do a lot of shim coating. And I will refer to Ashley to see if there was anything in particular that we set up, but I don't believe that,
Not in the last couple of years.
no.
Not with state funds.
And this goes on the ability to shift. So let's just say it didn't snow at all this winter. Didn't snow at all. We would immediately go into spring mode. We would start talking just like we are right now with our BSS support services, our business support analysts, and say, okay, you spent $2 million less on winter maintenance, let's say. So then we pick the worst of the worst and we'd immediately shift to asphalt, right? Because a ton of salt is very, very close to a ton of asphalt in price, in place. So in the last 2 years, unfortunately, we haven't had that problem, right? We've used all the money on the salt.
We haven't had that luxury.
It's luxury, yeah, sorry, I had that backwards. And this year, I do not foresee a large influx of salt cash, if you will, leftover cash from this winter to shift into district leveling.
And
Our encampments, that's getting your hot, this dismantling. Take the stuff away.
Yes.
Break them up.
Yeah, that is exactly what our duties are currently is,
You only do that on state land. You don't, you do call them for encampments on municipal property.
only state land because we're the land owner and it is getting increasingly expensive to clean some of these sites up.
Yeah.
And
you're more of.
there are more of them. And the influx that has happened this year, worse than any other year, is people can go down south and buy a massive RV for like $500 and it runs just good enough
Get it to the park and ride.
to get it to a park and ride, and then they stay in it until they leave. And then getting rid of those things, the salvage yard doesn't want them.
Yeah, we had the towers in here to complain about it.
Yeah. And it is expensive. So, or they catch on fire and then they're left beside the road. So yes, it's getting, increasingly more difficult and time consuming. And I would happily come back if there's a lot of information and a lot of numbers. I'm always available for a follow-up.
Spend money protecting banks.
Yes,
Loans.
Yeah, I was like, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
so was your patching number up
we're not,
this versus what's this year's?
Patching 1.3 million.
it would be very, very similar. So again, putting number to patching is really difficult for me to come up with. Right, patching season's coming. We've been patching a little bit, but patching season is going to be in about 2 weeks.
You have a negative number for drilling. I think that's the only negative number. I don't know.
What's really,
So we used to do core samples. We have recently stopped doing that. We had a drilling vehicle. And so when they want to know if the soil is 20 feet down, 30 feet down, 100 feet down, we had our own crew that did that.
So this is like return to equipment or something like that.
Yeah, go ahead, but I know where you're headed, but go ahead.
With this being fiscal year 25, a lot of those costs are from the 23-24 floods. And so where you might see a reimbursement or where you might see negative is most likely from a reimbursement, from the federal declaration from those.
Just matching them.
Yeah, so it's just catching up. And so with these being true actuals, the cost of these activities, the money that was originally spent might actually be higher than what it shows on here because of the reimbursements that have to draw down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, since we're running out of time, I just have kind of one broader question rather than like the nitty gritty of your budget. So typically, in my experience, I've seen that we go to maintenance when we don't have money. You know, we take from maintenance because you're typically not federally matched. So it's like a clean state dollar. I don't know the right terminology, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I do.
That is a strategy I have loved to explore as a state lawmaker, but dislike when it comes to my actual impact as a driver, or someone who uses the roads and bridges. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that? And is that happening on the House side with the T-bill now? With the large $33 million deficit, or whatever word you want to use for it, do you feel that we will be coming to, like, what is your sense of the conversation in relation to the deficit and our consistent use of maintenance as a stopgap?
So I have a start to that, and then I'm gonna certainly jump in and ask Candace to jump in. We certainly appreciate it when you don't take the money, because if you do take, we pride ourselves on staying within budget. So when you take money, we're gonna strive very, very hard to keep it where you have asked us to keep it. As far as the general consensus of what's going on here, I'm gonna refer to Candace, because that would definitely be a Candace question.
Sure. I'm Senator, so I'm not currently aware of changes to appropriations in the T-bill, but not over till it's over on Friday. And I'd say if the committee is looking to make any change, I know what you were talking about how maintenance has, almost 100% transportation funds. So it is very, seemingly lucrative to go
Yes.
there as a fund source, but it's a division just like any other division of AOT. So I'd say if you're thinking about making any changes to maintenance, maybe give Ernie the opportunity to come back in and go line by line like he's tried to do here, to justify the number, because he, like everyone else, wants to justify their figures.
Totally. No, and I really appreciate that. That seems to be what we did in the past when we had problems, and I didn't see it occur, at least obviously to me, in the governor's recommend. But I do think that is a spot for us to go, which, right, wrong, or indifferent is just the truth of the matter. Then the last question I had, kind of broad view, we talked a little bit about the layoffs that occurred due to the rescission or reversion plan, rescission plan. You are included in that. You lost some staff members. What is the impact going to be because of those loans?
Absolutely. So we're striving through efficiencies to right size our agency, at the right time, and now seems to be the right time. And our strategy is going to be searching for those efficiencies through things like, do 10 people need to do widget X, or would it be better for one person to be in charge of widget X and try to control all of that instead of 9 or 10 different ways throughout the state? We plan on utilizing a lot more, say there's technology out there, a lot more technology that we can do. Things like Teams meetings, right? It seems like here, it's like Teams, we do that every day, or Zoom. Well, maybe that doesn't float down into the maintenance world as much. And so we're looking for those efficiencies. We toiled hard on what was the right size for the agency, and the first round of rescissions, maintenance was not hit with anything, and then in the second round, we did have to come up with a plan, and we toiled long and hard, and we feel that the way we have structured it now, Vermonters hopefully will see and should see the same amount of services they've always seen.
Okay.
Just in more efficient ways.
Okay, thank you.
So just remind me across the agency, because they don't, total number of employees, and this may be,
Around 1,200, but I can get an accurate number.
and maintenance has how many of the?
So it's a floating number. It's between 450
456.
and 456 because of vacancies, right? So if I run a report when it says 425, next day it's 451 or whatever, but right around there.
So, and the other divisions to make up the 1,200 of that?
Yeah, our other divisions are administration, highways.
Number of employees, please.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get that. I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, if you could, that should be. because maintenance is the biggest.
DMV is pretty big, but we'll get you an actual number.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I think at this point, we're gonna give you the boot.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for,
Well done.
it was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're lucky to have the men and women of V-Trans. I can't say it enough.
Yeah.
The average person has no idea how dedicated these folks
No,
are.
they don't. They don't have any.
Do you have,
And the roads were pretty well done this year, even on Route 12. Although it's a little bumpy. Go ahead.
do you have any plans to put out you get a little video there, but, on your trips down to Rhode Island and Massachusetts to let the public, the public out there doesn't know what you did. I mean, they might have seen it on TV for a minute.
It was all over social media. I don't know what that was.
Social
We
media,
did
like I
that.
said.
They posted it, but.
The old people.
The older people, I do social media. And I did see, do you plan on like bragging a little bit out publicly about the good work you did down there and stuff?
So we indeed posted a law on social media, and I don't even know how to do that. We have a person
Somebody
that
did, right?
does do that, and
Okay,
I was,
because they should know when they start crapping on us and, but the roads aren't this, the roads aren't that, and say, listen, here's what we.
somehow they track how these posts go places. I don't know how this works. A big post for us would be around 50,000 hits. We got a million
On that.
twice. Once for Mass, once
So
for
that
Rhode Island.
part of it's working.
That part worked.
Yeah.
Could have been people in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So it was because the comments were there. And
There was a lot of people, Massachusetts, Rhode Island.
But and it's not your area. I know in maintenance, but when you do the commercials that come on and
Yep.
move over for the
Yep.
this and that, to squeeze something about your work down there in the next commercial round that you do for transportation would be a good idea.
on my way home last night, I had some ratchet straps on some stuff behind my pickup, and I noticed one of them came loose. I had to pull over on the interstate, and I put my four-way flashers on, and I was so presently surprised of how many people moved over just for average vehicle with four-way flashers on. Because I was dreading again. I mean, people just have no idea when they speed through a work zone at 65 miles an hour, what that feels like.
That's actually what I wanted as we were concluding, that's what I was thinking about is safety for your folks. And we've made a priority of safety and we tried to get work zones. We tried to address that, in the past. And I hope that we'll continue talking about that because that's critical. So, I mean, we probably won't talk about that now because we're finishing up, but, we do care about that as
Thank you.
a committee. So if you ever want to talk about that,
Sure,
come
be
on back.
great.
I can be so bold.
I think at this point, we do need to switch to Dave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for me.
I will tell you that my cousin is the principal at the largest elementary school in Rhode Island. She had good words.
Great. That's good to hear.
She sent pictures.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Steve.
You good?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good press is always.
No, I.
Some of those people might work.
Thanks.
So we have about 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Sorry.
It's nice to see you.
Just about that. Nice. Thank you. That's good to see you. Okay, that's the button here, I guess. And get this all set up before I said. It doesn't appear that it was successful. We are here. Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Dave Thurber. I am the director of the Central Garage Fleet. Here today to present to you our FY 27 budget. Okay, our first page here shows that FY 26 is passed, that in our current governor's recommended, and the increase between the two, the tough year, so any increase is certainly appreciated. And this largely comes, I believe, in our personal services, and a lot of things, some of the bills that we have to pay that come from ADS and other areas like that. They can tell us what the number is, and we'll write you the check. So, for fiscal year 27, the equipment fund is $8.9 million. Our personal services is 6.3. We do have a few vacancies.
Is your OT savings? Or is it OTN savings, or is it OTN vacancy savings? You know what I mean?
Our, let's see, it includes both.
Is the overtime a savings, or is the overtime a cost?
Right now it's a cost. Our vacancies, we have, fortunately, there's 3 at the moment. And that's I think that was in the $150,000 to $200,000 range.
And these are like mechanics, like, well, what's the
Yes.
big part of your personnel?
We have a total of 52 staff, 35 mechanics. And currently we are short 2 mechanics in Chittenden County and 1 part specialist. We have someone on late duty who's doing the part specialist job, but we have made an offer to get somebody in there full time. The operating cost is everything that's not personal services or equipment. So our lights, sewer, rent, because we do rent a couple of facilities. Parts for tools, tools for the mechanics have a lot of their own tools, but we've always sort of bought some of the more specialized stuff, the scan tools and things like that, so they don't have to. So we don't have everyone with a scan tool. So we don't. Generally, we get by with. It works to have one or 2 scan tools in the shop. And then our equipment, which is made up of a transfer from the T fund, the supplemental transfer, our depreciation, and our sales from auction. All that goes back to buying the equipment. Our total budget for 27 is $26,070,502.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So depreciation, that's normally, like, a lot of governments don't do depreciation. Do you know where that money goes?
So that is, we do a straight line depreciation monthly
Right.
for all the equipment. That does go, not sure exactly which account it goes into, but it comes back to us and it is allocated, or we're obligated to spend it on new equipment.
Okay, so it does come back.
Kind of like a capital.
Right, it's just an interesting way to.
Candace to tell you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Senator.
Yeah.
That's all good. So because Dave manages an internal service fund,
Okay.
it's on the accrual-based accounting rather than modified accrual-based accounting. So most of the, like, everything in transportation fund, and then most of what's other being discussed in Senate appropriations is a governmental type fund, which is modified accrual. But you'll see enterprise funds, internal service funds that we budget to are on accrual.
Yeah, and enterprise funds, I'm used to having
But
depreciation.
the depreciation is, it's really, you're just a way to put away money to buy the trucks later.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Like the towns, like town budgets. Waste allows, it's like what we would call depreciation, we just call it, it's like a depreciation schedule, but we call it like our capital reinvestment fund.
Yes. And actually, if I may, just for a minute, before I forget, I'll back up to what Ernie had mentioned earlier to your question. When Central Garage does a contract, we do try to make sure that the vendors, part of our sort of the boilerplate language from the Office of Purchasing and Contracting. There is a question if the vendor will extend state pricing to towns or municipalities and colleges.
Great.
So most of the time I've seen our vendors will say yes. So a state or a state style dump truck could be available to a town, assuming a similar or the same price.
Great.
Not sure how often it gets used, but it is there. And I've had a few conversations with some town folks over the years.
Thank you.
But I will get you the price, I can figure out a price, how much that electronic ice control system costs. Yes. Okay, the equipment purchase value to the time that I had made this presentation was about $56 million, and then about 24 million to upfit all of that equipment. And the dump trucks go to a vendor, Viking Surveys, that installs the bodies and the plow equipment. A lot of our small pickups we actually do right in-house. We'll take a body off, a flatbed on, or install the sanders. Assemble, install the snow plows on the pickups and things like that. So if we had to go out and replace it all at one time, it'd be 79.6 million, and our current appreciated value is 30.1 million. Yeah, my title on this slide is incorrect. So I do believe this is for a tandem axle truck. But our trucks costs have gone up considerably in the last few years. So the chassis itself would, in just a couple of years, from 126,000 to 151. That's just the bare chassis. And our outfit costs have gone up a little bit. That vendor has been pretty decent and sticky to their contract price. Truck vendors, on the other hand, it's respecting them, but those prices have gone up regardless of the contract price. And
We still use all internationals, or do you mix them up?
the majority is still international, but we have a number of Freightliners. We'll probably have in the neighborhood of 30 Freightliners in the fleet by the time they're all up there in service. And it makes sense to try to make a good comparison, see, total cost of ownership between the two. I think our internationals have always done very well, but we don't know unless we do a little bit to check them.
So
Yes.
as you head into this, here's what worries me about what you've shown us so far, and I really need to understand the performance measures like that. If I have a 9.4% increase over the last 2 years, and I split that down, I'm in the high 4% range to nearly 5% a year increase, and your budget's up 1.6. So it's important to understand the performance measures in goes.
So currently, we're kind of hit with a perfect storm. Since COVID.
Yep.
You know, we had that, the availability was down. It took longer to get trucks. Still have some chassis that are a year and a half or 2 years old. They're still being upfit. And then, you know, since then, the cost of materials and the tariffs and a lot of things have worked to raise the cost of not just the trucks and the upfitting, but the cost of parts that we buy afterwards. Separate pot of money, but basically everything has gone up, unfortunately. So what I've had to do is adjust the number of trucks and some of the things that we buy on a year basis.
Yep.
You know, still hoping to be between 8 and 10 years on the plow trucks. But
So
Bill,
you know, plow trucks are between 8 and 10 years. What are our goals and our performance for each of those, and where are we? There's at least 2 of us on this committee that have been here when we fell in a hole,
yes,
and it was not pretty.
it is not. In 2009, you might remember, that was.
Yes, I do. I was chair of the committee in the House.
We purchased only 3 dump trucks that year. I don't remember about the pickups. You know, probably nothing to speak of, because at that point, at that time, I believe the whole equipment fund was needed for other things. And it took probably 6 to 8 years to kind of catch up from that. Right now, unfortunately, I have about 40 chassis that are waiting to be upfit. So we're kind of adjusting what we buy and how many trucks we buy based on that, to try to get rid of the ones that are in the 8 to 10 year range now. So we have fallen behind, that are working to get back to some sense of normalcy. The dump truck chassis have a better availability now, but it's not like it used to be. The upfitter, unfortunately, is almost the only vendor in Vermont now. We have another option in New Hampshire, but they did not bid last time. So there's some delay on that end, getting the trucks to be put together to get them in the fleet. I would, you know, to sort of stay on 8 years, we need 32 trucks a year. It's 250.
What was that? So 30 to.
So let's say 8 years, 32 would be 30 would be 240, so it'd be just a few trucks shy of that. 200.
And I see that in what you put for performance measure. Should I asked you to come back with something, because I'm not here.
I can come back with something a little more clear than.
Yep.
Than this here.
If you could come with something that's a little clearer, so we understand and get what the whole, you know, is.
Yeah.
Pat and I were both in the House Transportation Committee at that point.
Yes.
We were in trouble. We were behind in lots of areas, but we particularly were behind because when the recession hit, all of our revenues, particularly purchasing use and the fuel taxes, dropped dramatically. And so it was a perfect storm. We were behind in a number of areas, but it's important for us to know, get a picture of, based upon our performance measures of the 8 years or so, where are we in what's happening by category?
Sure. I can put something together and so it's focused more on that and sort of the overview.
What are the 16, 17, 27? Those are just those vehicles.
Yeah, so,
Like
six-
that legend up there.
so the 16s are tandem
Okay,
axles.
it's nothing to do with the number.
No,
I see.
this is,
And your goal is to get them replaced within 10 years. Or 8 years.
hopefully, ideally 8 years is we found over time and looking at other information, 8 years is a good time. You know, the trucks are out in the worst of the worst and plowing snow is not easy on them. We have varying levels of operator maintenance. So by 8 years, they're not without value. Somebody will come and buy them. And, but for our purposes, it's time for them to, they're fully depreciated. Time for them to be sold and get new ones. What we're doing, I mean, this shows a little bit of an answer to your question, Chair Westman.
Yep.
But I can almost certainly
Yeah, it would be helpful if I
focus more on that. So
go ahead.
Does the fact that you have, I think you said 40, truck ready to be upfitted contribute to
yes,
the big, in the 60,
the six.
say, let's take 7 in this single axle dump trucks, that would shrink up if you could get those upfitted. So those aren't counted in those numbers.
They are not. So this actual active units in our fleet. And I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 31 of the trucks that are waiting are the 17 category single axle truck.
So of the 37 that we should be replacing in the tandem axle, how many are we replacing this year?
We have around a dozen,
So you have 12 doing,
all the tandem axle.
and will that drop the 37 number for next year? Or next year, what would the estimate be, that 37? Would that be higher?
It could be higher. I mean, yes, initially it will change this number in the downward direction, but next year there'll be another group of trucks aging out.
Yeah, I get it, and you know what those numbers are, and so are we digging a bigger hole? And on the single axle dump trucks, in each of those categories, it would be helpful to know if, are we losing ground?
Okay, I can show that. I can come up with a little bit better depiction of that.
And I understand some of it might be because I think it's better now than it was 3 or 4 years ago in buying stuff in
Yes.
availability. But it would be helpful if by category we knew where we are and versus the benchmarks, and if we're gaining or losing ground.
I will put there's like a one-page sheet together and
That would be great.
show you the dump trucks and our pickups and some of the other more expensive equipment.
And we might have you back for like 10 minutes to run through that.
Yeah.
And is there anything in the rest of your presentation?
Well, I had a couple graphs here that show our initial, put the truck into service.
Yep.
Put it in, there's a spike in the cost. And then, it's up and down depending on how it goes. And then toward the end of its life, you can see that it starts to head up again.
Yep.
So this is a tandem axle. They're a little bit more because there's a little more on them to take care of for maintenance. Even this single axle has been pretty decent over the years, but you can see it's the last couple of years they started to increase in cost. It's aging.
Why does it, why the big spike in the beginning? Because you're still upfitting it?
Yes. So typically we buy the chassis 1 year.
Yeah.
And we pay for the upfitting out of the next year. And when we do that, we put our upfit costs on a work order, on a capital improvement work order, so that can be depreciated. And that's, these graphs are based on our work orders, so. It's a,
And that's for the average of all of that type of vehicle.
no, this is just for one, this.
That is just one, is it a sample? That's,
I kind of picked them at random. I don't want to try to show all the worst or all the best. So I just kind of picked them at random.
okay, so that's a representative one, because you know all of them.
I have not yet tried to make a graph of 113 single axle trucks.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, yes. And if you can see, this covers our labor parts, our commercial charges, which is something when we do send something out, and we have parts and labor from a vendor. Our fuel costs to go along with the fuel costs. And then this was, this is just kind of my plan for fiscal year 27, the money I have available, and then items I'm looking to purchase.
So you're kind of close to the 30.
So actually we'll be buying only 15 chassis.
Okay, so that's,
30 and the 27 are the trucks from this fiscal year.
so we're
This calendar year, so
getting half of what you want
it's some
or
of
what
that.
we need.
Some of that is because we have all the other trucks that are waiting. And while I have an opportunity maybe to buy a few other things, try to get a few other things.
I'm looking forward to your chart to tell me where we are in this cycle. And I understand some are, we might have bought more and there's bulges and you have to figure out what you can get and what you can't. But I think it's important for us to know by category, are we falling behind?
But I'll do that if this, for your awareness, I will put together something that shows what we're purchasing, where we're at there, and what is going to be coming due.
Yep,
Let's sort of make that comparison.
Yep.
What we're getting.
that would be great.
versus What's coming up.
Yep, and it's always helpful to say, here's what our goal is. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And let us know when you can get that together and Megan will have you.
I will see if I can't have something by the end of this week.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I do have an obligation on Thursday.
We'll figure it out. We aren't,
Yeah.
we're trying to work our way through the budget, but we're not. We're not up against it. We don't have the TiVo from the house yet, so.
Okay.
At this point, can you take us offline and we're done